Assalamualaikum students, hope you all are safe and healthy. Students, in the previous class we have started chapter number 3 of your physics grade 9 books, which was about dynamics, and we have covered some of its topics. Let's discuss some more important topics of this chapter. So, our objectives for today's lecture will be review of previous topics, Newton's third law of motion, tension and acceleration in a string, vertical motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley, motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley such that one body moves vertically and the other moves on a smooth horizontal surface. Then we'll discuss example questions related to this topic. Then force and momentum, law of conservation of momentum, and in the end, the summary. But before starting today's lecture, students, I request you all to please be fully attentive during the lecture, as this time as well I have tried my best to make the lecture more interesting and comprehensible for all of you. So let's start. So students, in the previous class we have discussed about dynamics, which is basically the branch of mechanics that deals with the study of motion of an object and the causes of that motion. Then we've discussed three more major terms related to this topic that are force, and we have discussed force as that moves or tends to move, stop or tends to stop the motion of an object, or can change the direction of any object. Then we've discussed about the types of forces. Then the second important term was inertia, which was the tendency to do nothing or to remain unchanged. Then we have discussed the experiments in order to prove that objects contains or possesses the property of inertia in them. Then the third important term related to dynamics is momentum, which is momentum of a body is the quantity of motion it possesses due to its mass and velocity. Then we have started discussing the Newton's law of motion. There were basically three laws of motion derived by Newton. We have discussed first law of motion, which is also known as law of inertia, which is an object at rest will remain at rest and an object in motion will continue with constant speed and direction, unless it is acted upon by an external unbalanced force which tends to either change its velocity or either change the direction of that object. Then we have discussed about the Newton's second law of motion, which is an unbalanced force causes an object to accelerate. The acceleration of the object is equal to the net force acting on it divided by the object's mass. And mathematically we can write the second law of motion as F is equals to ma, where m is a mass and a is the acceleration and F is the force. Then we've discussed one question related to it, and then we've discussed about the comparison of mass and weight. So now let's begin with the Newton's third law of motion, which is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So according to this law, action is always accompanied by a reaction force, and the two forces must always be equal and opposite. Remember here that the action and reaction forces act on two different bodies. So for example, if an object A exerts a force on an object B, then object B must exert a force of equal magnitude and opposite direction back on object A. Let's understand this law of motion with an example of air-filled balloon. When the balloon is set free, the air inside it rushes out and the balloon moves forward. In this example, the action is by the balloon that pushes the air out of it when set free. The reaction of the air which escapes out from the balloon acts on the balloon. It is due to the reaction of the escaping air that moves the balloon forward. Or, same is the case with this cannon. Before releasing the propellant material from inside this, it is in a stationary condition. But after releasing the propellant material, what you will notice that as soon as it's released, this ball or the propellant material, the ball or this material will move forward, and in the reaction of this cannon will move in the backward direction, hence gaining the momentum. So let's have a better understanding of third law of motion with some practical examples.
Till now, we've only learned the first and second laws of motion. Oh, you're riding a bicycle. Have you ever wondered why a bicycle moves forward? Well, it moves according to Newton's third law, which says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. To understand this, see what happens when you drop a tennis ball. As the tennis ball hits the floor, it causes a downward force on the floor. This is the action. The floor reacts by pushing on the ball with the same force, but in the opposite direction. Action, reaction. Together, the floor and the ball form what's called the action-reaction pair. So now how it applies to your bicycle. When you push the pedal, the parts of the tire which touch the ground push it backwards. The ground also pushes the tires forward with the same force. So the parts of tires and earth form a pair of action and reaction. So what happens to the earth when your tires are applying force to push it backwards? Huh? Oh, nothing happens to it, since the earth is very big as compared to your bicycle. The force applied by your tires does not move it backwards, but force applied by the earth pushes your bicycle forward. So now you understand Newton's third law. Yep, the tennis ball is the right example. The ball and the floor are creating a pair of action and reaction.
Let's discuss some practical examples, some daily life examples of Newton's third law of motion.
About real-world examples of Newton's third law of motion that states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. The skateboarder, in order to do the kickflip over the bench, needs to first have his force go downward in order to pop the board upward. The jet moves forward because the force of the engine goes backwards. Look at these ladies paddling. They paddle backwards in order to go forward. This basketball bounces upward because it first goes down and the basketball court gives a force upward which causes it to bounce. Look carefully at this jellyfish. In order to move forward, it moves its body backwards, and the water has an opposite reaction and forces the jellyfish forward. Jumping on a trampoline is the same way. The force is downward, and then you have an equal force upward, which causes you to go up. And finally, look at this balloon. When the balloon hits the earth, it has an opposite force which causes it to change direction and go upward. So there we go, some real-world examples of the third law of motion, which states that for every action.
So now students, let's discuss the the next topic, which is tension and acceleration in a spring. Consider this block, which is supported by a string. The upper end of the string is fixed on a stand. Let W be the weight of this block. The block pulls the spring downwards by its weight. This causes a tension in the spring. The tension D in the string is acting upward at the block. And as we know that this block is at rest, therefore the weight of the block acting downward must be balanced by the upward tension in the string. Thus the tension T in this string must be equal and opposite to the weight of this block. So what is tension? Basically there is no particular formula for the tension. Tension is just a kind of a force actually applied by a string. If you have an object of mass m hanging on a string with a downward acceleration due to gravity g on that object, the tension on the string is the same as the force of gravity on the object, F is equal to mg, and due to which this object is at rest. As we have said that the downward force will be equal to the upward force, that is, weight of this block will be equal to the tension, and hence making this block stays at rest. So now let's discuss two cases related to the tension and acceleration in a string. In the first case, these cases, as we have discussed in the previous slide, that the object was in stationary condition, but what happens if the objects are moving? So these are the two cases in which two objects are tied to a frictionless pulley in such a way that both are held vertically. So that is, the movement can be shown vertically, either upward or downward. And in the other case, two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley such that one body is moving vertically and the other body is moving horizontally on a smooth surface. So let's discuss these two cases in a bit detail. So first case is about vertical motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley. Let's consider two bodies A and B of masses m1 and m2. Let m2 greater than m1. The bodies are attached to the opposite ends of an inextensible string, whereas the string passes over a frictionless pulley. The body A, having a mass of m2, being heavier, must be moving downward with some acceleration. Let's say it is A. At the same time, the body B, having mass m1, attached to the other end of the string, moves up with the same acceleration A. And as we have said that the pulley is frictionless and both the masses have tied with the one string, inextensible string. Therefore the tension will be the same throughout the string. Let's term this tension with T. So, in order to find the acceleration with which these two masses are moving upward and downward, we can find the acceleration by the help of this formula. Acceleration is equals to mass 1 minus mass 2 divided by mass 1 plus mass 2 multiplied with the gravitational acceleration. Whereas the tension in the string can be found out by the formula 2m1 m2 divided by m1 plus m2 multiplied by gravitational acceleration. So let's discuss how these formula have been derived.
दिए गए फिगर में ये पुली ये सस्पेंडेड है सीलिंग से और इस पुली के दो तरफ दो मासेस सस्पेंडेड है, ये मास m1 और ये मास m2। ये कहा गया है कि m1 इज ग्रेटर देन m2। तो ये जो मास है ये नीचे की तरफ जाएगा और ये मास ऊपर की तरफ चढ़ेगा, क्योंकि मास m1 m2 से बड़ा है। हमें यह पता लगाना है कि जो स्ट्रिंग पुली को सस्पेंड किए रखा है, ये स्ट्रिंग, इसमें टेंशन कितना है, और साथ ही साथ ये मास m1 और मास m2 में कितना एक्सीलरेशन क्रिएट होगा। यहां पर देखिए, चूंकि m1 और m2 एक साथ बंधा हुआ है, तो अगर m1 जो कि नीचे की तरफ जाएगा, अगर m1 इसे a एक्सीलरेशन मिलता है नीचे की तरफ, तो m2 में भी उतना ही एक्सीलरेशन होगा ऊपर की तरफ। क्यों? क्योंकि ये दोनों एक स्ट्रिंग से बंधा हुआ है। अगर ये 1 सेंटीमीटर नीचे आएगा तो m2 को 1 सेंटीमीटर ऊपर चढ़ना है, तो दोनों का जो मोशन होगा एग्जैक्टली सेम होगा। तो दोनों का एक्सीलरेशन का मैग्नीट्यूड एग्जैक्टली सेम होगा, एक ऊपर चढ़ेगा तो दूसरा नीचे आएगा। अब देखते हैं मास m1 के लिए। इसके लिए हम फ्री बॉडी डायग्राम पता करेंगे, लेकिन उससे पहले देखिए क्या क्या यहां पर हो रहा है। सबसे पहले तो ये जो स्ट्रिंग है, ये स्ट्रिंग जो कि एक ही स्ट्रिंग है, ये स्ट्रिंग m1 मास को ऊपर की तरफ खींचेगा, क्योंकि ये जो पूरा सिस्टम है, ये पूरा सिस्टम में ये m1 मास नीचे की तरफ जा रहा है और m2 मास ऊपर की तरफ चढ़ रहा है। तो m1 मास जो नीचे की तरफ जाएगा ड्यू टू ग्रेविटी, इस पे जो ग्रेविटी एक्ट करेगा, फोर्स ऑफ ग्रेविटी, वो नीचे की तरफ एक्ट करेगा, लेकिन ये स्ट्रिंग उसे उस एक्सीलरेशन से नीचे की तरफ गिरने नहीं देगा। अगर ये बंधा हुआ नहीं होता तो ये नीचे की तरफ गिरता। किस एक्सीलरेशन से? जी से। लेकिन चूंकि ये बंधा हुआ है, तो ये जो ऑब्जेक्ट है ये स्ट्रिंग से, थ्रू द स्ट्रिंग, इस ऑब्जेक्ट को थोड़ा ऊपर की तरफ खींचेगा, जिसके कारण इसे उतना एक्सीलरेशन नहीं मिलेगा। तो चलिए मान लेते हैं ये स्ट्रिंग T टेंशन से इस ऑब्जेक्ट को, m1 मास के ऑब्जेक्ट को ऊपर की तरफ खींच रहा है। तो चूंकि ये एक ही स्ट्रिंग है, ये जो पूरा स्ट्रिंग है ये एक ही स्ट्रिंग है, तो उतना ही टेंशन से m2 मास को भी ये स्ट्रिंग ऊपर की तरफ खींचेगा, तो टेंशन T। अब यही टेंशन T इस साइड से, दाहिनी ओर से पुली को नीचे की तरफ खींचेगा और बाईं ओर से भी एग्जैक्टली उसी टेंशन से पुली को नीचे की तरफ खींचेगा। तो ये जो स्ट्रिंग है, जो स्ट्रिंग इस पुली को सस्पेंड कर रखा है, इस स्ट्रिंग में कितना टेंशन क्रिएट होगा? इस स्ट्रिंग में देखिए ये जो पुली है, इस पुली पे नीचे की तरफ 2T टेंशन एक्ट कर रहा है या फिर 2T फोर्स एक्ट कर रहा है, पर ये पुली नीचे की तरफ मूव नहीं कर रहा। इसका मतलब ये जो स्ट्रिंग है, जो स्ट्रिंग पुली को सस्पेंड कर रखा है, ये पुली को ऊपर की तरफ खींच रहा है। तो ये कितने टेंशन से ऊपर की तरफ खींचेगा? एक्सीलरेशन 0 है, इसका मतलब जो नेट फोर्स है उसे 0 होना है। तो पुली पे नीचे की तरफ जो फोर्स है T प्लस T इज इक्वल टू 2T, तो ये स्ट्रिंग इसे ऊपर की तरफ पुल करेगा 2T टेंशन से। तब जाके ये इक्विलिब्रियम में रहेगा, ये मूव नहीं करेगा। तो अगर हम किसी तरह से टेंशन टी पता कर ले तो हम इस स्ट्रिंग में, जो स्ट्रिंग इस पुली को सस्पेंड कर रखा है, इस स्ट्रिंग में क्रिएटेड टेंशन पता कर सकते हैं, जो कि बराबर है 2t के। तो सबसे पहले हम फ्री बॉडी डायग्राम बनाएंगे पहले मास के लिए। ये जो पहला मास है m1, इसके लिए फ्री बॉडी डायग्राम हम बनाएंगे। तो ये रहा m1 मास, इस पे नीचे की तरफ ग्रेविटी एक्ट कर रहा है और ऊपर की तरफ इसमें एक्ट कर रहा है टेंशन। सो T ऊपर की तरफ और नीचे की तरफ ग्रेविटी अर्थात ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स, ये कितना होगा? ये होगा इसका मास जो कि है m1 इनटू एक्सीलरेशन ड्यू टू ग्रेविटी g। और साथ ही साथ देखिए ये जो ऑब्जेक्ट है ये a एक्सीलरेशन से नीचे की तरफ मूव कर रहा है, तो इसमें नीचे की तरफ एक एक्सीलरेशन है a। तो इससे हम इक्वेशन बना सकते हैं कि नेट फोर्स नीचे की तरफ जो कि है m1g माइनस t, दैट शुड बी इक्वल टू इसका मास जो कि है m1 इनटू इस पे क्रिएट हुआ एक्सीलरेशन जो कि है a। अब जो दूसरा ऑब्जेक्ट है अर्थात जिसका मास m2 है, उसके लिए अगर हम फ्री बॉडी डायग्राम ड्रॉ करें तो ये m2 मास का ऑब्जेक्ट, इस पे जो ग्रेविटी एक्ट करेगा वो होगा m2g नीचे की तरफ और इसे भी टेंशन t ऊपर की तरफ खींच रहा है। सो टेंशन t ऊपर की तरफ, पर इसमें जो एक्सीलरेशन है ये एक्सीलरेशन ऊपर की तरफ है और वो एक्सीलरेशन है a। इस ऑब्जेक्ट को देखें तो फिर अब हम जो नेट फोर्स पता करेंगे इस ऑब्जेक्ट पे वो ऊपर की तरफ पता करेंगे। तो नेट फोर्स इस केस में ये हो जाएगा T माइनस m2g, नेट फोर्स ऊपर की तरफ, दैट शुड बी इक्वल टू इसका मास इनटू इस पे क्रिएट हुआ एक्सीलरेशन। तो इसका मास है m2, इस पे क्रिएट हुआ एक्सीलरेशन है a। अब हम क्या करेंगे? एक्सीलरेशन पता कर लेंगे सबसे पहले, उसके बाद उस एक्सीलरेशन का वैल्यू किसी भी इक्वेशन में पुट करेंगे तो हमें टेंशन का वैल्यू पता चल जाएगा। तो एक्सीलरेशन पता करने के लिए हमें क्या करना होगा? इस इक्वेशन से या फिर इस इक्वेशन से, किसी भी इक्वेशन से, किसी एक इक्वेशन से t का जो इक्वेशन बनेगा उसे हम डिराइव कर लेंगे और उस एक्सप्रेशन को यहां पर t के जगह सब्स्टिट्यूट कर देंगे। तो अगर पहले इक्वेशन से हम t का वैल्यू पता करते हैं तो ये t इज इक्वल टू m1g माइनस m1a। इस वैल्यू को अगर हम यहां पर सब्स्टिट्यूट करते हैं तो हमें क्या मिलेगा? देखें, इससे आगे t के जगह ये वाला वैल्यू अगर हम सब्स्टिट्यूट करते हैं तो m1g माइनस m1a, ये तो हो गया t। अब ये माइनस m2g माइनस m2g इज इक्वल टू m2a। हमें क्या पता लगाना है? a। तो जो भी एक्सप्रेशंस है जिनमें कि a है उसे एक तरफ रखते हैं, इस m1a को ले जाते हैं इधर, तो ये बन जाएगा प्लस m1a। तो हम कह सकते हैं m1g माइनस m2g इज इक्वल टू m2a प्लस m1a। इससे आगे अगर हम रिफ्रेज करते हैं, इसे पहले लिख रहे हैं क्योंकि हमें a के लिए इक्वेशन बनाना है, तो हम कहेंगे a इंटू m1 प्लस m2 इज इक्वल टू g इंटू m1 माइनस m2। तो इससे आगे हम कहेंगे कि a इज इक्वल टू g इंटू m1 माइनस m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2। इसका मतलब जो एक्सीलरेशन क्रिएट होगा इस पूरे सिस्टम ऑफ मासेस में वो एक्सीलरेशन होगा इतना। अब हमें पता करना है कि इस स्ट्रिंग में टेंशन कितना होगा। तो इस एक्सीलरेशन का वैल्यू अगर हम सब्स्टिट्यूट कर देते हैं यहां पर तो हमें टेंशन का वैल्यू या मैग्नीट्यूड पता चल जाएगा। तो चलिए इस इक्वेशन को फिर से लिखते हैं। इस इक्वेशन को जब हम फिर से लिखेंगे तो t इज इक्वल टू m1g माइनस m1a। इससे आगे ये बन जाएगा m1g माइनस m1 इंटू ए के जगह ये एक्सप्रेशन, सो g इंटू m1 माइनस m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2। सो ये बनेगा m1g, इसे अगर हम कॉमन आउट करते हैं तो 1 माइनस m1 माइनस m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2। इससे आगे बढ़ते हुए हम कहेंगे ये बराबर है m1g इंटू m1 प्लस m2 माइनस ये टर्म m1 माइनस m2, m1 माइनस m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2 is equal to m1g into m1 plus m2 minus m1 and minus negative m2, so plus m2 divided by m1 plus m2। यहां से देखें ये प्लस m1 और माइनस m1 कैंसल आउट हो जाएगा और ये बनेगा m1g इंटू 2 इंटू m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2। तो इसी को हम कुछ ऐसा लिख सकते हैं 2 इंटू m1 इंटू m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2 इंटू g। तो ये होगा टेंशन T जो कि नीचे वाले स्ट्रिंग में एक्ट कर रहा है, ये टेंशन। पर जो ऊपर वाला स्ट्रिंग है जो कि इस पुली को सस्पेंड कर रखा है, इसमें जो टेंशन है ये 2T है, तो हम कहेंगे वो टेंशन 2T इज इक्वल टू 2 इंटू ये वाला एक्सप्रेशन, तो ये बन जाएगा 4 इंटू m1 इंटू m2 डिवाइडेड बाय m1 प्लस m2 इंटू g। तो इस एक्सप्रेशन को देखें, ये होगा उस स्ट्रिंग में, ऊपर वाले स्ट्रिंग में जो कि इस पुली को सस्पेंड कर रखा है।
Now students, let's discuss the second case of the tension and the acceleration in the string, that is motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless toy such that one body moves vertically and the other moves on a smooth horizontal surface. So let's consider again an example in which two bodies A and B of masses m1 and m2 are attached to the ends of an inextensible string. Let the body A move downwards with an acceleration a. Since the string is inextensible, therefore body B also moves over the horizontal surface with the same acceleration a. And as the pulley is frictionless, therefore the tension will be the same throughout the string. Since this body A is moving downwards, therefore the weight of this mass will be, of this object will be m1g, which will be greater than the tension as it is moving downwards. And talking about the second object, the force that are acting on this object B are, one must be the weight of the body, which tends to move it in the downward direction. The other is the reaction force of the horizontal surface acting on the body B in the upward direction. And the third force will be tension in the spring pulling the body B horizontally over the smooth surface. But as the body B has no vertical motion, therefore the resultant vertical forces, that is its weight, and the reaction force will be 0, and hence the net force will be equal to tension that is acting on this object or body B. So, the acceleration with which these bodies are moving downward and horizontally. So it can be found out, acceleration can be found out by this formula, which is equals to m1g divided by m1 plus m2. Whereas, as we have discussed, as the tension will be the same throughout the string, so the tension can be found out by the formula m1 m2g divided by m1 plus m2. So now students, let's discuss how these two formulas have been derived.
Connected motion over सिंगल पुली ही है, लेकिन यहां एक बॉडी आपकी हॉरिजॉन्टल मोशन में है। कैसे? ये आपकी एक मेज, फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस, एक फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस, मेज का किनारा है, ये फ्रिक्शनलेस मेज है, और इसके किनारे पर आपने लगा रखी है एक पुली। ठीक है, यहां आपने रखा एक ऑब्जेक्ट, ये आपने ऑब्जेक्ट रखा, बॉडी बी है ये, और इसका मास है m2। ठीक, और इस आपने ऑब्जेक्ट से बांधी एक रस्सी, और रस्सी को लेकर आ गए पुली के ऊपर, और यहां इस पर आपने बांध दिया एक मास A, जिसका मास है m1। अब देखिए ध्यान से, m1 के ऊपर दो फोर्सेस लग रहे हैं, एक तो इसका फोर्स वर्टिकली डाउनवर्ड mg, और दूसरा क्या, टेंशन अपवर्ड्स। करेक्ट, याद रखिएगा टेंशन हमेशा डोरी की उस तरफ लगती है जहां से ये बंधी हुई है, पुली की तरफ को। B2 पर केवल एक फोर्स है टूवर्ड्स पुली, कितना, टेंशन T। इसका हम वर्टिकल मोशन नहीं है, ऊपर नीचे जाने वाला मोशन नहीं है इसका मोशन कैसा है, हॉरिजॉन्टल। इसलिए जो वर्टिकल फोर्स लग रही है इस पर, अगर mg आपकी लग भी रही है वर्टिकल फोर्स mg, तो वो किससे बैलेंस हो गई है, वो बैलेंस किससे हो गई है, नॉर्मल रिएक्शन R से बैलेंस हो गई है। ठीक है, वर्टिकल मोशन यहां है ही नहीं इसमें। और ये क्योंकि m1 है, इसलिए m1 अपने वेट के कारण नीचे गिरता चला जाएगा, और ये गिर रहा है कितने एक्सीलरेशन से गिर रहा है, a एक्सीलरेशन से। और साथ ही साथ आपकी जो ये बॉडी B है, ये भी आगे बढ़ती चली जाएगी कितने एक्सीलरेशन से, एक्सीलरेशन A से। ये एक्सीलरेशन A से नीचे गिर रहा है, और साथ में खींचकर ला रहा है किसे, बॉडी B को एक्सीलरेशन A से ओवर स्मूथ सरफेस, फ्रिक्शनलेस सरफेस। रोकने वाला इसे यहाँ कोई भी नहीं है, हॉरिजॉन्टल मोशन में कोई रुकावट नहीं है, और वर्टिकल मोशन यहाँ है ही नहीं। तो अब दोनों के लिए एक एक बार आप काम कर लीजिए, सिंपल है बिल्कुल। A के लिए नेट फोर्स कितनी होगी, प्लस का mg और माइनस का टेंशन, और इसका मास कितना है, m1 मास है इसका, और कितना एक्सीलरेशन है इसमें, a। तो अब आपके पास बना m1g माइनस t इक्वल्स m1a, इक्वेशन नंबर 1 बन गई। ठीक है, अब ध्यान से देखिए बी पे तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक ही फोर्स है टेंशन की, और कोई फोर्स है ही नहीं। तो फोर्स कितनी, टेंशन, और कितना एक्सीलरेशन है इसमें, a। तो नेट फोर्स इज इक्वल टू मास इनटू एक्सीलरेशन m2a। ये इक्वेशन नंबर बन गई क्या, 2। दोनों इक्वेशंस को आप ऐड कर दीजिए, एडिंग इक्वेशन 1 एंड 2 दोनों को ऐड कर दीजिए। यहां से t से t कैंसिल हो गया, तो अब आपका बचेगा m1g इज इक्वल टू m1 प्लस m2 इंटू ए, और इसका नेट एक्सीलरेशन लेकर a इज इक्वल टू कितना बनेगा, m1 अपॉन m1 प्लस m2 इंटू जी। ठीक है, ध्यान से देखिए, a को कैलकुलेट करने में आपने g को मल्टीप्लाई करना पड़ेगा एक ब्रैकेट से, जिस ब्रैकेट का न्यूमरेटर छोटा है और डिनोमिनेटर बड़ा है। न्यूमरेटर छोटा है, डिनोमिनेटर बड़ा है, इस पूरे ब्रैकेट की वैल्यू लेस देन 1 आने वाली है, एक से कम आने वाली है, तो इसलिए a की वैल्यू क्या होगी, हेंस a इज लेस देन g। अब टेंशन फाइंड करना है, तो टेंशन फाइंड करने के लिए सेकंड इक्वेशन में a की वैल्यू रख लीजिए। टेंशन कितना है, सेकंड इक्वेशन है आपका m2a, ठीक, तो m1 m2 अपॉन m1 प्लस m2 इंटू जी, ये आपका टेंशन आ गया, सिंपल इक्वेशन। ठीक है, कीजिए।
So now students, let's discuss one example that I have taken from your book related to the second case of tension and acceleration in a string. So the question says that two masses 4 kg and 6 kg are attached to the end of an inextensible string which passes over a frictionless pulley such that mass 6 kg is moving over a frictionless horizontal surface and the mass m4 kg is moving vertically downward. Find the acceleration in the system and the tension in the spring. So we are given with the data, mass 1 is equal to 4 kg and the mass of the second object is 6 kg. So as it is written in the question that one object is moving horizontally and the other is moving vertically, so this question is related to the second case of the tension and acceleration in a string topic. So remembering the topic and the formulas of acceleration and tension, so by putting the formula of acceleration, m1 divided by m1 plus m2 g. So now substituting the values in this formula, we'll get the acceleration of this scenario as 4 meter per second square, and in order to find the tension in this string, so write the formula, that is m1 m2 divided by m1 plus m2 g. After substituting the values, we will have the tension as 24 Newton, as tension is a force. So tension is equal to 24 Newton. Thus we can say that in this case, the acceleration with which these two bodies are moving, one is moving vertically and the other is moving horizontally, the acceleration is 4 meter per second square, and the tension which is in the string, the inextensible string, is equal to 24 Newton. So the question is very simple. What you have to do is only to remember the formulas of acceleration and tension of the two cases. So now students, let's move on to our next topic, which is force and momentum. Let's derive a relationship between these two terms, that is force and momentum, which says that when a force acts on a body, it produces an acceleration in the body and will be equal to the rate of change of momentum. So let's consider this ball of a mass m moving with the initial velocity vi. Let a force F acts on this body which produces an acceleration A in it. This changes the velocity of the body. Its final velocity after time t becomes Vf. So if we say that Pi and Pf are the initial and final momentum of the body related to the initial and the final velocities respectively, then we can write this as P1 is equals to mvi and Pf, that is the final momentum, is equals to mvf, whereas vi is the initial velocity with which the object was moving and vf is the final velocity with which the object is moving after the application of the force on it. So therefore we can say that the change in momentum will be equals to final momentum minus the initial momentum in this body. Or we can also write this as Pf minus Pi is equals to mvf minus mvi. So in order to find the rate of change of momentum in this body, we can say that Pf minus Pi divided by t as change in momentum is basically final momentum minus the initial momentum, and as it is written, rate of change of momentum, so which means that we have to divide it by t. So now substituting the values of Pf and Pi, we will get the formula as mvf minus mvi divided by the time taken. Or if we'll take m as a common, as we usually do in our mathematical questions, so after taking m as common, we will have the formula as m vf minus vi divided by the time taken. And if we notice on this formula that Vf minus Vi divided by t is actually the rate of change of velocity, which is also known as acceleration A. So reformulate this formula, we will have the value will be same here, Pf minus Pi divided by t is equals to m, and we will replace this formula or this ratio as A. So according to the Newton's second law of motion, F is equals to ma. So we have ma in here, we will replace this ma by force. So we will get the formula as Pf minus Pi divided by t is equals to force. So now if you will notice that this is exactly what we have discussed earlier, that when a force acts on a body, it produces an acceleration in the body and will be equal to the rate of change of momentum. So force is equals to the rate of change of momentum. So now let's move on to our next topic, which is law of conservation of momentum, which states that the momentum of an isolated system of two or more than two interacting bodies remains constant, or the total momentum before a collision is equal to the total momentum after the collision if no external force acts on the system. For example, a car and a truck, to a railroad car, or the collision of a proton with a proton, or a planet and a meteor. So students, momentum of system depends on its mass and velocity. You people must remember the example that we have discussed in our previous class about the momentum, that was the treasure hunt, and in which we've discussed, or we have concluded, that the momentum depends upon the mass of the object and the velocity of the object. So we have used the word isolated system in this law. So the system is basically a group of bodies within certain boundaries, and an isolated system is a group of interacting bodies on which no external force is acting. If no unbalanced or net force acts on a system, then its momentum remains constant. Thus, the momentum of an isolated system is always conserved. And this is the law of conservation of momentum. So now let's consider an isolated system of two spheres of masses m1 and m2. They are moving in a straight line with initial velocity as u1 and u2, such that u1 is greater than u2. Sphere of mass m1 or ma approaches the sphere of mass m2 as they move. So the initial momentum of mass m1 will be m1 u1, and the initial momentum of the mass m2 will be m2 u2. Therefore, the total initial momentum of the system before the collision is m1 u1 plus m2 u2. After some time, the mass m1 hits mass m2 with same force, and according to the Newton's third law of motion, m2 exerts an equal and opposite reaction force on m1. Let their velocities become a v1 and v2 respectively after the collision. Then the final momentum of the mass m1 will become m1 v1, and the final momentum of mass m2 will become m2 v2. Whereas the total final momentum of the system after the collision will become m1 v1 plus m2 v2. And according to the law of conservation of momentum, the total initial momentum of the system before collision equals to the total final momentum of the system after the collision. That is, m1 u1 is equals to plus m2 u2 is equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. So this shows that the momentum of an isolated system before and after the collision remains the same, which is the law of conservation of momentum. The law of conservation of momentum is an important law and has vast applications. So students, now let's discuss this topic in a bit detail. In order to prove that the total momentum before and after the collision remains constant, but in an isolated system.
कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मोमेंटम। फिजिक्स में कंजर्वेशन का मतलब है नो चेंज। दैट इज, अगर हम कंजर्वेशन के साथ मोमेंटम लगाएं तो उसका मतलब हो गया मोमेंटम डज नॉट चेंज और द मोमेंटम रिमेन्स कांस्टेंट ओवर टाइम। कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मोमेंटम इज मोस्टली यूज्ड to describe the collisions between the objects. जो important पॉइंट है इसमें और नोट करने वाली चीज है, दैट इज द कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मोमेंटम इज ओनली एप्लीकेबल टू एन आइसोलेटेड सिस्टम ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स। अब देखिए आइसोलेटेड सिस्टम का मतलब क्या होता है। बेसिकली इट इज अ सिस्टम दैट इज नॉट एक्टेड अपॉन बाय एनी एक्सटर्नल फोर्स। मतलब ये वो सिस्टम है जहां पर कोई भी अनबैलेंस्ड फोर्सेस को हम कंसिडर नहीं करते हैं। अब इसमें आपका फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स भी आ सकता है, इसमें कोई भी एक्सटर्नल फोर्स आ सकता है। सो इन दिस थ्योरी वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू कंसिडर एनी अनबैलेंस्ड फोर्सेस। नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द थ्योरी। सपोज देयर आर टू बॉल्स A and B. The ball A has mass ma, the ball B has mass mb. Both the balls are traveling along a straight line at initial velocities ua and ub, such that the ball A collides with ball B. During collision, the ball A exerts force on the ball B. Let's say the force is Fa, while the ball B exerts force on the ball A, let's say Fb. Now, after collision, the two balls move with final velocity Va and Vb. In order to understand it more clearly, now let's formulate it. In the case of ball A, the ball A which is moving with the initial velocity ua has the initial momentum before collision, which is given by ma into ua, while the ball A moves with final velocity va after the collision. So in this case, now the final momentum becomes ma into v of A. If we calculate the change in momentum, so it becomes ma va minus ma u of A. If we take ma common, so it will become ma, and in bracket it will become va minus u of A. According to second law of motion, the force is proportional to the rate of change of momentum. So we can say so that in the case of ball A, the force exerted was Fa, which is equals to the rate of change of momentum. The change of momentum, as we have already calculated in the above equation, that is ma, which is multiplied by the whole bracket, and inside the bracket there is va minus u of A. It is divided by t because we are considering the rate of change of momentum. Now let's move on to the case of ball B. In the case of ball B, it is moving with the initial velocity u of B. So the initial momentum of this ball before the collision, it will become mb multiplied by u of B. Now after collision, the ball B moves with the final velocity Vb. So in this case, the final momentum now becomes mb into Vb. If we have to calculate the change in momentum, so it is given by mb Vb minus mb Ub. If we take mb common, so inside the bracket it will be Vb minus Ub. According to the same second law of motion, that is, the force is proportional to the rate of change of momentum, then the force exerted by the ball B is represented by Fb, which become equal to the change in momentum which can be seen from the above equation. The change in momentum, as we have already calculated, is equals to mb in bracket vb minus ub upon the time, that is t, because we are considering the rate of change of momentum. Now, during collision, we saw that the balls stick together. Here comes the Newton's third law of motion, and according to the third law of motion, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. That is, if we apply this law in this particular situation, so we can say so that for every force there is an equal and opposite force, which is Fa is equals to minus of F of B. From the two equations that we have already calculated the value of Fa and Fb, and let us substitute in this equation. So it will become Ma Va minus Ua upon T, which is equals to minus sign of Mb in bracket Vb minus Ub upon T. From both sides of the equation, the T gets cancelled out. Now open the bracket. If we open the bracket and consider the left hand side of the equation, so it will become MAVA minus MAUA, and in the RHS it will become minus MBVB plus MBUB. On rearranging both sides, we will get MAVA plus MBVB, and on the RHS side we will get MAUA plus MBUB. Considering the left hand side of the equation, MAVA is the final momentum of the ball A, while MBVB is the final momentum of the ball B. So if we add these two values, so it will give us the total momentum after the collision. Similarly, if we move on to the right hand side of the equation, so it gives us MAUA, which is the initial momentum of the ball A, MBUB, which is the initial momentum of the ball B. On adding the two terms, it gives us the total momentum before collision.
So students, I hope that today's lecture is pretty much clear to you all. So let's sum up what we have discussed in today's lecture, that is review of the previous topics, Newton's third law of motion, tension and acceleration in a string, and the two cases related to it, that are vertical motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley, and the second case was motion of two bodies attached to the end of a string that passes over a frictionless pulley such that one body moves vertically and the other moves on a smooth horizontal surface. Then we have discussed an example question related to the second case of the tension and acceleration in a string. Then we have discussed about the force and momentum and the law of conservation of momentum. So students, I am eagerly waiting for your positive replies. In the next lecture, we'll be discussing the friction and some other topics after that. So till then, take care of yourself a lot, and thank you. Allah Hafiz.